this interview, we're going to discuss the point of why it is that we experience change to be so difficult. Where, for example, we will very easily make a decision of change in our mind and project this change within our mind, and it looks perfect and like you can do it, and in a way as though it is already done, and you take that breath and you go, I'm doing this. But the moment something manifests in your mind or your world and reality, or you see a person or face an environment, it's like the entire mind comes rushing back and you fall back into the exact same experience and patterns of thinking and behaving that you did before you made that decision within clarity within yourself. And why it is that in moments that we face change, we have a tendency to fall back into the mind instead of standing up for ourselves. And obviously within this support and assistance with how to walk change physically, practically in your world and reality, and to give you an understanding of why it is and will be initially difficult until you practice it more and more and more. It's interesting in itself how we have to practice change, that we is simply proving that as a human being, as a self, within ourselves and our life experiences, we've never really, in fact, changed in all dimensions and layers and manifestations of our mind and physical. And you'll see this for yourself now in what I mean exactly with you've got to practice changing for real in the physical. So let us start. We have, within existence, experienced multiple lives through the processes of reincarnation, where over and over and over again we have been inserted into life experiences in this world and reality. And every time we come into this world, we are within our very beingness imprinted with a mind consciousness system and merged into and with the human physical body. Now, what happened with the imprinting of, well, initially it was more a merging of our very beingness as a being into the mind consciousness system, where we would, because our beingness was a substance that was alive in itself, that did not need an additional source or point of substance to substantiate our very living with, we as a substance became a power source for the mind consciousness system and essentially merged and manifested into a mind consciousness system living being. So the mind thus became a being, a consciousness in itself that would function and exist and live in this world in reality through the human physical body. Now, because of that extensive and close merging with the mind consciousness system, what happened throughout lives was that our very beingness started imprinting and forming and shaping itself according to the mind consciousness system. I mean, it's, for example, the same as what happens in your mind, where you'd have a thought pattern that emerge in your mind, like, for example, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And what you do then is you believe that is you. In that belief, you create a relationship with that thought pattern. With creating a relationship, you merge yourself, your very beingness, with that thought pattern. With that merging of your beingness with that thought pattern, it integrates, permeates, and manifests into your entire mind consciousness system into your human physical body. And then your entire mind, self, and physical behavior start changing into that thought pattern of I'm not good enough, which will influence and affect everything in your world and reality, because your very self-approach toward your world and reality and people and things and tasks and events and living will be within that beingness, imprint, acceptance and allowance relationship you have developed within yourself of, I'm not good enough. The same principle applied with the entire mind consciousness system throughout our lives, where because of that merging, that relationship that we as beings created with the mind consciousness system, we have become the living beingness of our minds within the human physical body. So throughout time, the more we merged through the mind, with the mind, the more our very beingness became the very manifestation of the entire mind consciousness system, its systems, its constructs, its structures, and its energy. We throughout our lives merged ourselves more and more into the human physical body as we walked through our life cycles within this physical reality. So with every life, we'd merge more with the mind, we'd merge more into the physical, to eventually where we are now in this age of humanity, that our very beingness is the mind, our very living with and in and as the physical is the mind. So this then brings us to the point of change, where understand energy, for example, that you experience, it has now become you. It's now become your very physical living in your human physical body, so that when you experience an energy, for example, you physically experience it and you will physically behave and act according to that energy. The same with thoughts. You'll have thoughts, your very beingness will change according to the thoughts, and so your physical living in this world and reality. So we are the mind through and through, mentally and physically, in our entire beingness, starting point, resonance, and living. Therefore, in terms of change, when you face a point of change, like let's utilize the example of I'm not good enough, everything and everyone that you had related this point to of I'm not good enough, like for example schoolwork, relationships, hobbies, your job, profession, marriage, kids, whatever you have defined within yourself as what you are not good enough within, are in fact moments of opportunity that you are able to physically, practically change yourself within. But understand that it's not simply going to change with you making a decision in your mind, because you have integrated and become that point through your very beingness into your very physical living. So the only way you're really going to change is to physically, practically change your interaction in your world and environment toward which you initially experience yourself to be not good enough. This is done in the following way. I mean, you'll find it's really very easy to make these statements within your head, but when it comes to physical, practical reality, you can clearly see that you're not really changing. Meaning where, for example, you now make this decision in your mind that I'm going to change, I'm going to not believe this, I'm not good enough, and I'm going to change myself to do and be and become and reach my utmost potential, and not limit myself within this point of I'm not good enough. Now that's a very cool statement. However, when it comes to the practical living, you will find that it is a lot more difficult, meaning where, let's say you've now made that statement and you now face a point where you have to do a task or an assignment, and these thoughts are coming, you're not good enough, there's no way you're going to do it, you're not educated enough to be able to get this done. I mean, these thoughts are racing, and the experience of not being good enough comes up again, and before you know it, you've fallen and did not really push yourself into the application of change in the moment by stopping participation in your thoughts. So taking a breath, saying stop, no, I do not accept and allow these statements of I'm not good enough in my mind. I decide for me in this moment to do the best that I'm able to be and do, and assist and support myself to reach my utmost potential within completing this assignment, and I'm getting this done. And then after those statements, you actually physically, practically do it. You do that assignment. And whatever comes up in your head, you breathe, you do not participate. Assert your focus into getting that assignment or task done. That is the practical, physical process you're going to have to walk in terms of changing yourself. It's going to have to do practical, real-time walking, if you will. It's very easy to make statements of change. I am changed, and I am good enough, and things like that. But when it comes to what's required to be physically done to change, we always seem to never do that, because it's an actual doing, a real-time walking. We have to walk yourself out of this personality of I'm not good enough, out of this beingness, out of this personhood or self of I'm not good enough. Every single moment that one faces oneself within the things that one had initially believed that one is not good enough within. So in the beginning it's going to be a tough process, because this point had integrated into your very mind, physical and self-experience, and it's going to feel like it comes up all the time as you're doing something within your world and reality where you're busy walking the process of actual self-change. But what you'll find is, with being constant and consistent within this, constant and consistent meaning not participating in those thoughts, making a decision in the moment to direct yourself, to get this task done, and to know that you will give it your all, and actually give it your all as you are physically, practically doing it. That's walking real-time change. You are stopping participation in thoughts, you're making a decision in the moment, and you're practically, physically implementing and doing that decision in that moment. That, within walking so, you really quantify your process, because you're taking the 3 steps of essentially taking responsibility and walking your physical, practical change immediately in the moment. And then one can furthermore assist and support oneself with writing and self-forgiveness. Writing out what it is that you initially believed and created a relationship with inside yourself of what you're not good enough within. Apply self-forgiveness for accepting and allowing yourself to believe that you're not good enough in those things or with those things. And walk yourself in writing solutions for yourself and how you can assist and support yourself to stop the belief of I'm not good enough. Educate yourself in the things that you're required to have be done. Get to know what it is that needs to be done, and then do it. You'll also find, for example, the whole point of I'm not good enough is actually a manipulation as a resistance to facing something or someone new, and can further go into a laziness where one then will not get things done, educate yourself on things, or practically walk through a particular task or point that needs to be done because you're throwing a tantrum essentially in your mind. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I can't do this. When in practical physical reality you really are able to. I mean, you're breathing, you've got your head, you've got your senses, you've got your mobility in your human physical body. All you need is breathing, educate yourself on what needs to be done, and then physically, practically do it. So within that point, this whole idea of I'm not good enough is really irrelevant and not valid. And you'll come to these realizations, for example, when you're walking your process of writing self-forgiveness to release your energy relationships within your mind that you have created towards your mind from your very beingness, Release those mind points as imprints from your very beingness, and then you've got to change your very beingness in how you physically behaved as those mind points, and change it in actual practical physical reality. Taking the statements, the words, into and as the living word. That is why we so emphasize the living word. We've got to live ourselves practically, physically into direction. Where, for example, you change the statement of energy and apathy of I'm not good enough to I walk into and towards my utmost potential, and you assist and support yourself to physically, practically expand yourself and actually doing things and getting them done, and just saying fuck off to these useless, irrelevant thoughts that is stopping you and limiting you from expanding, growing, and developing as a living example of what us as human beings can become if we but stop the energy and limitation of our minds. Alright, and we've got the Desteni Forums, where those that are listening to this interview are interested in assisting and supporting themselves in walking this process of how to physically, practically, really implement real change within your world and reality and life experience. And then we also have the Desteniiprocess, which is an awesome process that is laid out in detail, where you walk your entire process through your mind, conscious, subconscious, and unconscious, with a buddy that helps you with and guiding you through the mind in what you have imprinted and manifested and lived as your beingness within and as your human physical body, and how to practically walk yourself out of that. And one do have within Desteniiprocess the blogging for sponsorship. All of it is explained within the Desteni Forums. We suggest considering having a look at walking that process for self, because it's really practically step by step laid out, where you can walk yourself into change in specificity and detail. Right, thank you very much.